So as most of you all know by now, the Activision Blizzard King deal has been approved, and Microsoft is now the fine owners of Activision Blizzard King. Now, when this deal was approved, a question came to my mind. Was Jim Ryan telling the truth when it came to if Microsoft acquires Activision Blizzard, Sony would be no more? Sony is going out of business. They cannot compete if Microsoft decides to take away certain games from Sony PlayStation. Let's have a deep dive and see if we can investigate that statement by Jim Ryan. This is Island Gamer with Jay, and don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. Is it true what Jim Ryan is saying, or is Jim Ryan a lying snake?
Snake. I'm a snake. I'm a snake. I'm a snake.
Let's investigate this. Let's get it. First up, let's look at Sony's hardware and software. It's important for us to get an idea how many hardware is out there and how many software are persons buying to use the hardware. So let's look at that first. In July of this year, Jim Ryan had a showcase. In that showcase, he would have revealed that the PlayStation has already reached 40 million consoles sold. Now, given the time period from July to now, let's say that currently the PlayStation is sitting at 50 million units sold. When we add that to the PlayStation 117 million consoles sold, we have a grand total of 167 million units that persons could buy software from. So let's investigate the software sales of some of Sony's major first-party titles, and then we'll see if PlayStation gamers are actually playing these first-party games. Let's look at it. The first game you're looking at is Horizon Forbidden West. This game was released on both the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 4. Now, out of the 167 million people able to purchase this game, how many did really buy this game? Let's look at it. Only 8.4 million copies of this game was sold on both the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 4. This is less than 5% of the player base buying this game. Now let's look at another game. Let's look at God of War Ragnarok. God of War Ragnarok was a massive first-party game for both PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. And God of War is really a flagship title for Sony PlayStation. So how much did God of War sell on both the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5? Well, that only sold 11 million copies. How much is that from the 167 million persons available to purchase that game? That is less than 7% of the player base purchasing God of War Ragnarok. Wow. So do you all see a trend happening here? It seems that the first party games are not selling well. They are selling, but they are not selling well on the PlayStation platform when you were to look at both the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5 combined. The percentage is not high enough. And let's take a look at a series itself. Let's look at Spider-Man. Now that did a little better. Let's look at Spider-Man. Now, Spider-Man as a series, meaning every game that came out on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 sold over 33 million copies. Now, how much is that of the 167 million persons able to purchase Spider-Man? That is just under 20% of the player base that purchased Spider-Man. Now, keep in mind, Spider-Man is not owned by Sony. It is IP that is from Marvel, and Sony just has the contract to make games out of that IP. So Spider-Man has been popular all throughout the years. in existence, so we could understand why the sales are a little higher compared to Sony IP itself. So it appears that persons are not buying these games. Outside of Spider-Man, the attachment rate for the amount of consoles out there is not high. And it's not me saying this. Listen to what Jim Ryan said. Jim Ryan said he's frustrated PlayStation games can't reach more players. Yes, Jim Ryan said that first-party games are gated to their current console model, audience of tens of millions of players. So yes, Jim Ryan believes that not enough gamers are buying their games on the PlayStation platform alone. Think about it. Both PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 have a pool of gamers, over 167 million, but yet they are not even cracking, let's say, 10% of that players buying the games, 20%, 30%. So the first party games does well, it gives Sony their identity, but guess what? It is not selling the gangbusters as how Sony would like it to sell. So that is the first reason why it is we can say what Jim Ryan said. He's not lying. It's looking like, Call of Duty is what is keeping them afloat. Now let's look at the Call of Duty numbers. Not too long ago, we saw that PlayStation makes over 800 million off of Call of Duty every year. And that is a large amount of money. Not only that, but that was just in the US alone. When we talk about worldwide, they are making close to $1.5 billion off of Call of Duty. So no wonder why Jim Ryan does not want to let Call of Duty go, because it is a major pillar for PlayStation. No first-party game could make that amount of money for PlayStation. So that is why they are so vigorous, or they were so vigorous when it comes to trying to block the deal for Activision Blizzard. Could you believe that there are some players out there only play Call of Duty? We are talking about 100% of the time they play no other game but Call of Duty. And that could be said for other games like Fortnite and Overwatch and so forth. Some persons just play, the casuals only play multiplayer games. That is why Activision Blizzard is so important to Sony. But listen to The Verge as they report this.
For example, in a letter from PlayStation boss Jim Ryan to the FTC, we learn all sorts of interesting data on how many people are playing Call of Duty across PlayStation consoles. And yes, in this letter, Ryan says that in 2021 about 1 million users spent 100% of their gaming time playing just Call of Duty. As reported by The Verge, Ryan also says that about 6 million PlayStation gamers spent more than 70% of their gaming time playing just Call of Duty. And on average, in 2021, Call of Duty players sunk over 100 hours a year playing COD. Sony supplied these numbers to show that if Call of Duty was to become an Xbox exclusive, it would financially hurt the company and punish PlayStation players who mostly, or only, play COD. Of course, other internal emails reveal that Sony probably isn't that worried about losing Call of Duty.
So are you seeing the picture here? Why it is Jim Ryan made that statement? Jim Ryan himself said nothing PlayStation could compare to Call of Duty. Nothing. So Call of Duty being acquired by Activision, only time would tell whether that really impacts PlayStation as a company. One thing we know for certain is that Jim Ryan and PlayStation can't be happy that this deal went through. Maybe this is the reason why, or one of the reasons why Jim Ryan, quote unquote, retired. But we'll have to wait and see of the effects this have on the gaming industry and PlayStation. Now, with this acquisition being bought by Xbox, humble some of the ponies, humble some of the radical Sony fans as helping them to see here what. We all have good games to play. We all rely on third-party companies for our favorite console to stay afloat. With this move humble these Sony fans, will have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see as the final impact this merger has on both PlayStation and the community. This is Island Gaming with Jay, and don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. I'll see you in the next one. Later.